It's time for CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Find us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, YouTube, and TuneIn. The easiest thing to do is tell Alexa or Siri to play CBJ in 30. Here's your host, Bob McElligott.
Well, as we get into this Easter weekend, it's time to turn back the clock because it was a year ago that the Blue Jackets, a lowly underdog, an 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, went into the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs taking on the number 1 seed, the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning, not just the number 1 seed, but a team that had set records in the regular season. They were the best team in the regular season by far. They were heavily favored to beat the Blue Jackets, but as we all know, the Blue Jackets decided to twist fate and not only upset the Lightning, but they swept them in 4 games. Welcome to CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. I'm Bob McElligott. And the reason we're going back in time is because Fox Sports Ohio is re-airing that series this week. They've already run games 1 and 2. Tonight, this is Friday, tonight, 8 o'clock, Game 3, which was the first home game of the series and a very pivotal point in that series for the Blue Jackets. I'll tell you more about that, and I've got some great guests coming your way too. But first, I want to tell you about Telhio Credit Union. At Telhio Credit Union, they've got great services for you, whether it's you personally, checking account, savings account, the basics. Even the basics, if you go onto their website at telhio.org and see what they offer when it comes to those types of accounts, they have some perks, some things that you may get from them that you won't get from anybody else. So you need to go check that out. Maybe you have a business, and right now it's tough to be a business owner, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, don't know what's going on, hope everything's coming back very soon. Telhio Credit Union can help you work through those things. Again, go to their website at telhio.org. You can find all the information there. If there's something you cannot find, you can enter a live chat just by looking on the right-hand side of the screen. Also, their number is there. You can call them and get in touch with somebody. They would be happy to help you. Telhio Credit Union is open to everyone in Central and Southwestern Ohio, and they are federally insured by NCUA. So during today's show, I'm going to take you in a couple of different directions, talking with people to revisit that series between the Blue Jackets and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm going to put it this way. Let's go inside, outside, way inside. It's like pitcher's pitch selection is what it sounds like to me, but it's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to start by taking you on the inside as I bring in Jody Shelley. And Jody, we lived through that series, we watched it, we called it, but when you look at it a year later, what do you remember about that series between the Blue Jackets and the Lightning?
So the matchup and the way that the Tampa Bay Lightning came out and scored the first goal and the second goal, it was unscripted. It was exactly what 100% of anyone that's in touch at all with hockey or the National Hockey League or anything to do with hockey, it's exactly what was supposed to happen. The Tampa Bay Lightning were supposed to stomp the Blue Jackets. And so you get to 3-0, and then, oh, yeah, they scored a goal. Nick Foligno gets a goal. Oh, David Savard. And then you're like, whoa, you see a little anxiety in the Tampa Bay Lightning bench, and then you see a little frustration, but then you also see this stand back like, we got it. We got it. And I've been on a team where that you feel like you say you got it, but do you really got it? Because you got a team in Columbus that will not go away. And the advantage was all with the Blue Jackets because they were playing a systematic game where they sat back. They let the Tampa Bay Lightning, who were so stubborn, they wanted to make the cross-ice passes. They wanted to play the fancy game. They wanted to play high octane. And the Blue Jackets sat and retreated and waited for those plays to happen and then counterattack. It was such a perfect game of wait. You know, I always go back to the scene in Braveheart where Mel Gibson has everybody, or William Wallace has everybody lined up with their spears. And they're waiting for the attack to come, and they have their spears down, and he's saying, hold, 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 and he's waiting for them to get so close, then pop the spears up, and of course they get to knock down a lot of soldiers. So it was almost like the hold game for the Blue Jackets. So for me, what stood out was the timely scoring, the way they played as a team, the way that Tampa was coming unraveled a little bit, but they never showed it, even after Game 4. I mean, late in Game 4, they showed it when the Blue Jackets and their fans were elated with it was inevitable when the Blue Jackets got empty goal number one, empty goal number two, and just the way they stuck together. I mean, it was incredible, and it was a mark on the league. It was the first time ever that a President's Trophy winning team for the best team in the regular season in the National Hockey League, which Tampa, remember, they were a buzzsaw, and the first team that they got eliminated, swept in the first round by a team ever, and that was the Blue Jackets. The cast of characters, the players that stepped up, the way the coach rallied the troops, the way the players grabbed it and responded. It was such a fun thing to watch an underdog play as a team, gain belief and gain momentum as that went on, and then to see it be capped off for the first ever series win at home for the Blue Jackets, it was remarkable.
And you always talk about lessons in the playoffs. In the previous year, the Blue Jackets were up 2-0 on the Washington Capitals, and then that series fell apart on them. They get up 2-0 on Tampa. They go on the road, get two really big wins. And the fact that they were able just to keep going and to not let that same fate happen again. Heck, they never even lost another game, as you just said. That really illustrates how the lessons can be learned quickly in the postseason, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's an advantage of having a good core group, because if you go back even to the Pittsburgh series a couple of years ago, and every lesson you learn in a regular season, but more importantly, the playoffs, that's the one thing I think John Tortorella, there's many things he's good at, but it's one of the main things is trying to keep his guys in the moment, focused on the moment. You hear him say all the time in the playoffs, we've done squat, we've done nothing, we have no respect. And it's to keep them focused on the now, because as soon as you think, when they got back to Columbus being up 2-0 to the Capitals, Bob, when we stepped off that plane as broadcasters, when we saw fans in the city, we all felt it. And I think it was a 3-day break in between. I think it was 2 games in Washington, 3 days off, and then play. And we all felt it. It was like the Blue Jackets had accomplished something finally. You know what I mean? And I think that got to the players, and experience of John Tortorella, the experience of the players coming back and then losing 4, chasing and getting Holtby in the net. It was all. I go back to the Pittsburgh series where they're in Pittsburgh and we're in warm up, and Matt Murray gets hurt. You remember distinctly. And this is like, wow, this is perfect. And then Fleury comes in and plays like he's lights out. So you think you have an advantage in playoffs. You think that you're going to get this is setting up and it's going to be handed to you. It never is. And that's the great thing about playoffs in hockey. And you're right, the lessons and having a group. And I started off this long-winded answer with this. Having a group that's been together for a while, Atkinson, Foligno, Jones, Werenski, Bjorkstrand, been together a while, have been through these things. That is such a big advantage.
All right, one last thing. If you could break that series down to one key goal, what would your choice be? And I'll tell you what mine is. David Savard. When he scored that goal, when he toe dragged Victor Hedman and scored a goal, for a guy that doesn't score a lot of goals, plays a lot of great defense, that was almost a sign, and that was game 1.
For me, it's a toss-up. It's the Savard goal for me was so impressive, and the perfect shot over Vasilevsky. But I think the Foligno goal. I'll go with the Foligno goal, and maybe because you went with Savard, because that was a key goal. But when the captain comes out and shows us and shows his team the fight he had for that goal, he had to fight to get up the ice, fight for the break, and then fight to put it back. I think it was a message to his team who could have easily went the other way. And I know we all want heroes and we all want dramatic moments. But to me, that there was more to that moment than just a goal. It was the player who did it, Nick Foligno. It was how he did it in separating himself on a break. And it was finishing it off. And we've seen so many missed opportunities throughout the regular season and moments where you think, oh, if he hadn't hit the post or if he had to beat him there, he made that count. That puck was going in the net. And I think that was a key moment in that whole comeback and the way that series meant for that team.
That is spot on, Jody. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's an insider. Now let's go to the outside. And I'm going to bring in John Forslund right now, who is the radio and television broadcaster for the Carolina Hurricanes. During that series last year, he was calling it for the NHL on NBC. And, John, before we get to talking about that playoff series between the Blue Jackets and the Lightning, I need to talk to you about this whole coronavirus situation because you were one of the first guys affected. You were with the Hurricanes right before the pause. You guys were on the road, and you were told that you were exposed to the coronavirus before you came home from your road trip. Just tell me about that entire experience and how crazy it was for you.
Well, Bobby, thanks for having me. Great to see you, hear your voice and all, and hope you're keeping well. And it was unnerving. I was told on the way home when the league went into pause, the Canes were in New Jersey, and I was told by a team official that I occupied the same room as Rudy Gobert after he had checked out. My life kind of went into unusual circumstance. I didn't know what the next step was. They had to clear me to fly home, and I didn't even know if I was going to be able to fly home with the team. It got to be, that kind of a touch and go situation, but they sequestered me up front. Everybody pushed back. I got home, and that's where, like so many people without symptoms, I couldn't get tested, right? So I just had to go into a strict quarantine, like not this isolation distancing stuff, but a strict quarantine in one room here at home, and do it for 14 days. And I did, and thank God, no symptoms, and was allowed to roam about my house again, not the country, but to roam around my house, which is good. Yeah.
Of course, Rudy Gobert is the guy that came down with the virus, and that shut down the NBA. That was the first domino that fell, and boy, did they all fall really quickly. I've been on those planes for years, just like you. I know when guys get sick, they take them to the front of the planes. Um, what's it like sitting at the front of the plane? It always seems like a place that you absolutely, positively do not want to be.
I was in the GM seat, right? So I had my phone out, and I was kidding with the coaches, just, hey, boys, just tell me what you want. I'll make a deal here. Just tell me what you guys need. Of course, it was after the trading deadline, so it meant nothing, right? But it was weird because, I wasn't sick, but I was kind of a taboo figure. Like, what's going on with Johnny here? I knew the players knew. I knew the coaches, the staff. Everyone knew. And then as I was saying goodbye to everybody, I didn't figure out, it was so stupid on my behalf, till later they were all running the other way as I was saying goodbye. They wanted to get the heck away from me. So we can laugh about it now. It's long gone, and now we just kind of pull together, right, as one here and get through this and somehow get back to normal.
As we're all waiting to get back to normal, I mean, the Carolina Hurricanes are sitting just like the Blue Jackets are, waiting to see what's going to happen, waiting to see what a playoff format is going to be, if there are going to be any more regular season games played, because in both cases, I mean, if they were to start the playoffs today, it would depend upon the formula. If they go with percentage points, all of a sudden Carolina would be there, the Blue Jackets wouldn't be there. It's a really weird time. There's so many weird things going on, but as we hope to get back to the game, my team, your team, they both have the same kind of questions. Are we going to be in when it comes back?
Yeah, and how do you answer that question? So like you, I've seen all these suggestions, seen the points percentage, winning percentage. I've seen the most recent, I think, is that 68 game rollback that someone suggested up north. Okay, that's fine. But I was a fan and have been a fan of a play-in of some sort. I believe there are enough teams that were huddled around this that deserve an opportunity to get in, especially in our division, in the Eastern Conference. Look at the way Columbus has manufactured their story all season. That's remarkable. To navigate through all those injuries, Torts kind of rallied the troops as he did. Lose your number one goalie, the Elvis story takes off. You look at all these things, and just to say because of a benchmark you're not in, I don't think is fair. And then you say, well, what about those other teams that are, in comfortably? Should they have to wait while others try and get their legs and play a little bit and get rhythm, and then you throw them into the mix? So I kind of understand the conundrum here, but I do think it would be very exciting to see a play-in. I'm going to stay with that. I think there should be a 2 out of 3 play-in, maybe a 1-game play-in. I don't know, but just something to reward teams who are on the cusp of making it, who had it closed out, because 12 games, 14 games, whatever it was for teams, that's substantial. It's not like there were, 2 or 3 games left in the season. That's a substantial amount. So anyway, that was my first feeling on this subject. I'll stay with it. The longer this goes, it might just be the playoffs. They might have to eliminate some teams. That will be unfortunate. Or there's nothing. I think that's conceivable too. I think we get to a point as this goes along that it just becomes unrealistic to play, and we have to salvage a complete season with a true calendar and a real training camp, for next year. I think it's fair to speculate on that too.
No, I think you're right about all of those things. And, the other thing is this is the perfect opportunity to try something different. I mean, if you were
Right.
ever going to expand the playoffs, or if you were ever going to try a play in, this even the old stalwarts in this league that don't want to change anything, this
Yeah.
would give you the excuse to do that and see how it works. And as you
Yeah.
know, you've been around a long time. You've seen these experiments that have gone on. Most of the time they do them in the American Hockey League, and if it works out
Right.
well, then they move it to the National Hockey League. But now you have a chance to actually do it in real time and get the people's reaction and get the players' reaction too.
Yeah, I think it would be great. First of all, whatever happens will be spectacular. But I think the more teams you can involve, the teams that deserve it, okay, fine. The teams that struggled this year are rebuilding, had their issues and are long gone. They probably don't even want to get back. They would probably take the extra time. They would have a full off season, and they could really be ready to go next year. The teams that do come back under this format, say it's a playoff tournament, be great for television, be great for the fans. It will serve everyone's appetite. But those teams are putting themselves out there at risk too, because they're coming off a long layoff, which is unusual. They reconvene, the games amp up in intensity, people get hurt. How does it affect the next season? So there's a risk for the teams that are so-called playoff teams right now too. But I just think after all of this, we're going to need sports. We're going to need to, release emotionally as a country, and for both the countries, Canada, the United States that love hockey. This is going to be the recipe for an emotional lift that everybody needs. So I don't care what the circumstances are when it comes back. We'll all be happy to see it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sports, some people can say, well, sports is not important from a morale standpoint, as you just said. I
Oh,
mean,
very
for
important.
both countries, the morale of just having it back, even if you have to play it in front of no fans, if people can
Yeah,
just see it, if they can listen to it, just to have it back and be able to have those kind of discussions and conversations, I think would be very important.
I agree with you, and I think anything works. All bets are off. Even a situation that's just made for television would work because we'd all sit down and watch it, and the country would too. Who knows what happens with football? Who knows what happens with college football? I know it's very important in your area, very important in this area. But even if we hypothetically look at it and say there aren't as many or no fans at a college football game, let those kids compete, put it on television. People will convene in their houses and have parties. It'll be a lot better than this. I mean, this is for the birds. I've had enough of this, but we'll see what happens.
I am in full agreement with you. I'm talking with
Yeah.
John Forslund, and while we're talking about playoffs, I want to go back with you, back in time with you a year ago. The Blue Jackets were taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. You were calling that series on NBC. It was the best team the league had seen in a long, long time in the Tampa Bay Lightning, a record-setting regular
Yeah.
season team going up against a team that just basically squeaked its way into the playoffs. And it was David against Goliath, and David won again as the Blue Jackets swept the Tampa Bay Lightning in that series. I just want to get some of your thoughts as you were there and you were a part of it, because again, we're in it, being with the team, we're in it a little bit more. You're on the outside looking in, you see the whole league. What was it like for you to be involved in that kind of a story as it unfolded?
Well, it is a story, and when you cover a playoff series for a national audience, you have to serve both stories and hopefully serve them well. So when we got together, first of all, you don't find out about this until Sunday night. You don't find out which series you're getting, who you're working with, what the production team is, and all that kind of thing till Sunday night, late Sunday night. You spend most of Monday reacquainting yourself with the storylines the best you can. As a national broadcaster, you want to be careful. You don't want to over prepare too much because you don't really know. If you're around a team like you are, like I am with my team, we really know our teams. Nobody can fly in and know as much as we do because we've covered it from stem to stern. In terms of this, you look at the main storylines to get them in order for a meeting on the night before the game. You get to the rink in the morning, and then you execute game number one. So this story was very easy, right? It was all about the Tampa Bay Lightning. No disrespect to Columbus, but this season for Tampa Bay was so great that the entire first period had to be, building up to 62 wins, tying Detroit's record of 96, the individual records of Kucherov and Vasilevsky, John Cooper, all these stories, had to get out there. Then there were the Blue Jackets, and the thing about Columbus was it was an all-in approach at the trading deadline. It was a commitment to the fans to get there, to make something happen, to make some history. And you had to applaud Jarmo Kekalainen for the job that he did, making those moves. They were aggressive. Some people said, it's too much. We'll never make it. They did scramble to get in, to just make it. But how would this collection of individuals get there? And what happens, with Sergei Bobrovsky in game number one? Because that's the one story that was not going to go away. I think it's fair. When you look at his past history in the playoffs, you look at what has happened, you look at John Tortorella, and he'll never admit it, but was he fully confident in Sergei Bobrovsky? Was he not? Was he not? I mean, I don't know. You just look at the facts, and the facts were that coming into the playoffs, his record in the playoffs just wasn't that great. So where would this go? And certainly the way it started in game one, that first period, this is going according to script. And then the big move where everybody was looking to see if Bob would come out for the start of the second period or not. And he did. And then that big save on Nikita Kucherov. And then the Blue Jackets built their game in the second period. And those 4 games were remarkable. I look back at that. We thought it was going to be a long series. Pierre Maguire and I worked it. We had dinner the night before. We thought it would be a 6-7 game series, legitimately. But we both had Tampa winning, to be fair. But then to see what the Blue Jackets did, absolutely incredible.
It was incredible. And it's still, even a year later, it's still like, did that really happen? You mentioned the Bobrovsky save, but was there a moment where maybe in game 2 or game 3 where you said to yourself, I think Tampa is in big trouble in this thing?
Well, I'll tell you what, it started in game 1, because if you look at the first game and the adjustments, whatever those adjustments were that Torts made, or the buy-in from the players, it started in a big way in the second period. And yes, they were able to climb back in and get the goals, and Seth Jones' goal was magnificent and all of that, but it was the team game. It was their ability to shut down the middle of the ice. It was all 5 guys on the same page every shift, and it just kept building and building and building. And as the series went along, and of course you had the incident involving Kucherov and the suspension and all of that, that became a side story that the Lightning didn't need. But Tampa Bay arrogantly, I thought, felt we got this. But as each game played out, it was the team game of the Jackets that was undeniable. And you look at, all the usual suspects played very well. But I recall somebody like David Savard and how well he played in that first round. I mean, he was arguably the best defenseman. Jones obviously there too, but Savard was a warrior, I thought. I mean, he was just outstanding. And, it was Alexander Texier, was in that series. And here's a guy that came out of nowhere at the end of the season and had some big moments. But those are just 2 individuals of many. I mean, this was a team effort and an outstanding coaching effort. And Pierre went back to that over and over again, the job Torts did. And it was, to Pierre's credit, first commercial timeout of game 4. He said to me, "This is over. They're not even going to sniff this. It's a sweep." And that was after the first 6-7 minutes of game 4. So that was a remarkable turnaround and just a dominating team performance.
That was John Forslund of the Carolina Hurricanes. He called that series between the Blue Jackets and the Tampa Bay Lightning last year for NBC. So that's an outsider's look on that series. I'm going to get you way inside right now as I'm joined by Blue Jackets defenseman Seth Jones. And Seth, when I say to you, Tampa Bay sweep, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh, man. I think just a complete buy-in, just a belief that we had in the room. If that's a short enough answer or whatever for you. I mean, it was just, we all understood how we needed to play to win. And I thought we prepared very well, and we went out and executed it. And you're never gonna. We obviously wanted to keep their top players from gaining confidence and putting points on the board. But that's not, one or two players can't do that. It's got to be a complete buy-in from the whole team, and I thought we did a good job of that.
Was that confidence still there? Well, obviously it was because you came back in game one, but you get down 3-0 in the first game, and
Mm-hmm.
all those things you just said about, you knew how you had to play and all. Were you playing like you had to play right then, or was that the adjustment you made between periods 1 and 2?
Well, I think they kind of blitzed us there in the first period. It's hard to say because there's so many, um, you know, uh, highs and lows in a game, and that was clearly a low point for us right off the get-go, which is not something that you want to do to start a series off. But we also understood that each period was its own, each game was its own. So all after the first period, we were focused on just becoming better with every shift, every decision we were making out there, becoming a better team, and just getting involved in the play. And so I thought, really we would look for that first one to make it 3-1. And I think that really, really helped us along.
Yeah, when Nick gets that goal to get you on the board,
Mm-hmm.
That obviously, like you said, that gave you some juice. But then when David Savard gets his goal, now are you starting to feel it?
Yeah, and well, I won't skip over Bob's save on the PK. Could easily have been 4-0, and that was, we go down 4-0. We probably don't come back from that. Middle of the second period, that's a tough situation. But Nick's goal is huge. And Savvy does so many things away from the puck that help us be successful as a team. And whenever he, does something like that or makes a big play in a game offensively, it makes it that much better. So that was obviously huge. Then you're down 1 at that point. And is that down 1?
Yes.
Yeah, down 1. So obviously it's a hockey game from there.
When you talk about David Savard and the things that he does away from the puck, when he does score, is it extra juice for the rest of the team because you're so happy for him? And then the goal that he scored, the way that he did it, a little toe drag. I mean, this guy's known for shot blocking and defense. He's not known for great offensive awareness, but he showed it on that goal.
He did, and it's always it's great juice when Savvy scores or makes a big time play like that. Like you said, his shot blocking is some of the best I've seen. His defensive awareness, he seems to bail guys out constantly when we're out there pinned in the defensive zone by using his body, using his stick, and things like that. So when he joins the rush and makes something happen offensively, it's a joy to see because he's such a great guy, and everyone knows that he'll do anything for the team to be successful, whatever role he needs to play. He'll do it. And so when he does, something like that, it's pretty special, and it gives us definitely extra life on the bench.
After you get it back to a tie, then it's anybody's game. But it was your goal on the power play that was the difference maker. That power play, I don't know if you remember every detail of it, but 3-3 game, quarterbacking it coming up the ice. What are the thoughts in your head?
Quarterback. I think we were kind of. I don't remember how we got into that unit because I was quarterback and I think I was middleman somehow in zone. But I think I got it into Brad's hands early on the breakout if I remember. We got set up pretty well. I think I got a shot on net. It went to the corner. A lot of credit, kind of an undervalued play is Duchesne tracking the puck in the corner. The guy tries to ice it. And it hits him, blocks him, blocks the puck from going out. Then I get into the pile, give it up to Zach, and over to Brad. It's just a world-class pass by Brad, really, just a one-touch through the seam. And, Cam was a great screen. So it was, all 5 guys really on that play, if you think about it, contributed on that goal.
So you win that game, you go on, you win the next game, you're up 2-0 coming back home. And you guys didn't have to look too far in the rearview mirror to know what it's like to be up 2-0 and how to handle it, because against Washington the year before, that lead evaporated quickly. So when you got back home to Columbus, what going into game 3, What was the focus? What was the mindset going into that one?
Well, we obviously heard the chatter. It's hard not to. Everyone's on social media. Everyone is talking to media and whatnot about how we blew the 2-0 lead the year before. And so we just didn't want to let the opportunity slip, and that was really the main thing that we were thinking about going into Game 3. Continue to play the same way, but we knew it was definitely the biggest game of the series. We wanted to come back in front of our home fans and give them something to cheer about and keep momentum on our side. And I thought, we did a great job in Game 3 of doing that, not giving them very much, but dealing with the ups and downs of that game and coming out with a big win.
You win that game, you get to Game 4. As it's going along, you're heading the game. When it gets late in the game and they have to pull the goaltender and you score the first empty netter, because there were several, at what point do you start just to enjoy it as a player, where this is over? It's just a matter of that time on that clock disappearing, but we've got this.
I think, let's see, Brad's goal made it 5-3. Is that right? Am I correct?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
So he made it 5-3. That was the first empty net goal. I think there was a little over a minute left or something, about 2 minutes left. With that one, that was kind of like the really big celebration on the ice. I'm not sure how it was on the bench. I'm sure it was massive too on the bench. And then the next one, I think, with about a minute left, I want to say, I don't even know who it was now thinking back on it, the second one. That one was, you go up 3 with about a minute left, 45 seconds. You're like, okay, we won. We won this thing. And that was just a unbelievable feeling, not only for us, but to give it to our fan base was something spectacular.
Yeah, it was almost, I remember it where it was almost, that's enough empty net goals. Quit stopping the clock. Come on, let's just
exactly
get it over with, right?
Let it run out. Exactly. I'm sure the fans are thinking that too. I mean, the cannon going off more times than not is probably a good thing, though, at the end of the day.
No, you're probably right. So it's been a year since that happened. I know a lot of things have happened between then and between now. And I know a lot of things are going to happen between now and the end of your career. But do you think that being part of that is something that you're always going to cherish, being part of the team that was able to pull off the upset that you guys did?
Oh, 100%. I think that'll be with everybody. That'd be a great, one of the great moments of everyone's career that was on that team last year. And obviously we'll always have that brotherhood on that team and always have those memories together. For me personally, I think actually for a lot of guys, it was really their first time out of the playoffs or winning a playoff series. We were such a young team, and for us to do that, I think that was a great accomplishment as a team and for everyone individually. Obviously, Tampa being one of the best regular season teams of all time, and doing it the way we did, going there and winning 2 games and coming back here and sweeping them in front of our fans. It just feels like it was written, right out of a book. And like I said, it's just an extremely memorable moment.
Have you gone back and watched any of those games?
I have not, no. I have not, but I may tune in, actually. Tonight, you said, right?
That's right.
I'll tune in. I may tune in tonight.
That's right. 8 o'clock tonight on Fox Sports Ohio. Don't forget. Seth, thank you so much for the memories. And again, continued best wishes to you as you rehab your injury, getting ready to return to the ice.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
That is Blue Jackets defenseman Seth Jones. Thanks to him and John Forslund and Jody Shelley for helping me to turn back the clock and relive that sweep of the Tampa Bay Lightning by the Blue Jackets just 1 year ago. And again, Fox Sports Ohio is airing those games over again tonight at 8 o'clock. As you heard me tell Seth, you'll be able to watch Game 3. And then tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, it will be the end of the sweep, Game 4 from Nationwide Arena. Reminder to you, another Monday mailbag coming up. It'll be an Easter Monday mailbag. You can send me your questions at any time. Tweet them to me at Bobby Mac Sports, or you can email them to me. You can email voice question as well, just by sending it to BobbyMac, BOBBYMAC, @BlueJackets.com. So that's going to wrap up this edition of CBJ in 30, presented by Ohio Credit Union. I'm Bob McElligott saying Happy Easter and so long.